back here with you today. I'm Stephanie Davis with Learning and Organizational Development, one of the conference planners, and I know our team is so excited to see you all here because we have been planning for today pretty much since we last gathered over a year ago.
Yeah, it's true. Hi everyone, my name is Alexa DeFalco. I'm also with Learning and Organizational Development and a member of the Conference Planning Committee.
So we have Jess. Yeah, thank you. Welcome. We have just a couple of announcements before we get things going. Please, if you have not already, be sure and scan the QR code that's located on your table topper. That is going to give you access to all of today's wonderful information, the program agenda. We don't miss out on anything. Some of the things to expect, we have some awesome presenters here today. They are here to help us learn more about innovating HR to adapt and thrive. So shout out to all the presenters in the room. I know we have a lot of you today, so thank you for your time here. We also want to let you know about the career skills sheet that's on your table. That's a worksheet. We're going to use that as a networking opportunity throughout the day, but we will talk to you more about that at the end of the session. So just know we want you to network and enjoy your time here. And of course, could not have this conference without just a little bit of fun. So some of the things to expect, we do have a photo area over here. Be sure and get team photos throughout the day to document your experience. We have Mr. Wolf coming in later for more photos. He'll join us at the end of the day. And probably one of my favorite things we've been trying to get planned for a couple of years. We have Ladies in Red performing at lunch. NC State's acapella group.
We also have the prize wheel this afternoon. I know that excites some of us in the audience, so we will be giving away prizes, don't you worry. We're also really excited to be incorporating some various charitable components into our conference this year, including 2 hands-on activities that you can participate in. You may have seen as you were walking in, but right outside this door we have a table with card writing supplies and materials. You can write and decorate a card for our Wolfpack-style professional closet for NC State students who are preparing for job interviews, career fairs, things like that. Give them some words of encouragement. And we also have an opportunity to write cards for the Wake County Meals on Wheels. And so you can write some notes to seniors living in our community. And we will have more information about these organizations during lunch, as well as introduce a third organization, We Plant It Forward, who will be handing out tree saplings, not saplings, saplings, tree saplings. Okay. So I think that's all that we had to cover. So we are going to kick it off then, and we are ready for a day of innovating HR to adapt and thrive. So please help me welcome Tim Danielson to the stage to get things started.
All right, good morning everybody. Thank you. I just love this day. It's really fun. I think this is my 3rd time having this experience. I was walking around the room before we started and had the chance to talk to a couple of people who this is their first one. My word of advice to you is meet some people that you don't know. See some faces that you don't know and just go up to them and introduce yourself. The more we get the opportunity to get to know each other and continue to build our community, the better we'll be as an HR function at the institution. So that's my number 1 word of advice if this is your first one. And if this is not your first one, do that anyway. Okay? If you see someone that you don't know who that is, go up to them and talk to them. Doesn't have to be very long. It's just a quick introduction and say hello. Thank you for being here. And those of you who have heard me say that before know, when I say thank you for being here, I mean that with sincerity. You got a lot of choices of how you spend your time. And when you make a decision to attend an event like this and devote some time to yourself improving professionally, it's worth it. So thank you again for being here. A year ago, when I had the chance to speak to you, we were over at University Club, I think, a year ago. I stressed 2 words Okay? I stressed gratitude and I stressed praise. Okay? I'm going to do that again. Those two things are a part of what has carried us as an HR community through the last year. Because we've had some challenges in the last year. The pace of change has been pretty extreme. We've had directives from the federal government and directives from the system office, and even things that we've done probably to ourselves. All in good stuff. To help further what we do as an HR community. The concepts of gratitude and praise are two things that have helped us through that time. A year ago, I showed you the benefits, both psychologically and physiologically, of both being someone who expresses thanks and being someone who receives thanks, being someone who provides affirmation and being someone who receives affirmation. So I invite you today and throughout, again, another year ahead, to do that with each other as an HR community and with the faculty, staff, and students of the institution that we serve. It's actually not difficult for this group to do that because this is a room full of high achievers. So providing praise isn't difficult. And it's a group, by definition, that routinely does things for other people. And so consequently, our ability to express gratitude, both amongst ourselves and again, outside our community, it's easy. So go ahead and do it. You'll be surprised how it makes you feel if you're around someone who does it a lot. Okay. Now I get to introduce the Chancellor. All right, so Tim, don't screw this one up. Chancellor Howell began his time here as Chancellor at NC State in May, just 4.5 months ago. Prior to becoming Chancellor at NC State, he was serving as the Chief of External Affairs at UNC Health and the UNC School of Medicine. I got to know Chancellor Howell when I started here at NC State in January of 22. And at that time, right here, he was Vice Chancellor of External Affairs, Partnerships, and Economic Development. And I'm so thrilled that he's returned again to NC State. He is a native of North Carolina. He hails from Shelby, North Carolina. Chancellor Howell has a law degree from UNC Chapel Hill and a bachelor's degree in political science from NC State. And now he's returned to be our Chancellor. So please join me in welcoming the 15th Chancellor of NC State.
Good morning, everyone. No, we're going to do it better than that. This is my first event this morning, and I'm excited. I tried not to have coffee this morning, but it didn't work. And I've had coffee, and since becoming Chancellor, I've had a lot of meetings with other presidents, and they've got to know me. They said, Kevin, if you got to learn how to pace yourself. What you talking about pace yourself, man? You know, because I'm the person that wakes up early in the morning in there at 7. You need to go to the gym. You know, you guys are HR professionals. So they said, you need to work out every morning. So I decided, since I didn't work out this morning, I need some help. I need everybody to stand up for me. We got to work out this morning. We're only going to do 2 exercises before I get started, so that I can tell my friends that I worked out this morning. So first exercise we're going to do jumping jacks. Ready? Listen. So everybody told me that this is HR professionals and we want to do some development. And they said part of this group, you didn't want to come and just sit and hear people lecture and hear people talk. So this is what we call an interactive. Now I'm going to show you how to do jumping jacks. Just take it down. We got to jump. What are we going to do? We only got to do 2. You ready? 1, 2. Good job. One more exercise. We're going to run. We're going to run. So everybody asks you a chance to face yourself. What does that mean? run. You gotta stay in shape. So we're gonna run. Make sure you gotta run. We're gonna go one leg up, one leg down, one leg up. We're gonna do it twice. Ready? One leg up, one leg down, one leg up, one leg down, one leg up, one leg down. One more. We're done. Thank you very much. So now you can tell everybody that you worked out this morning. Make sure you get some water. Anybody that needs to get up to get some water, go ahead and do that. It's tough too this morning. You do have to pace yourself. And that's the one thing that I have learned in being Chancellor. We laughed at it. But I stopped by to tell you this morning, take care of yourself. Now, I'm delighted to be here. I've got a long scheduled day. My day won't end tonight until 10. I think I'm going to Wilmington for a 6 o'clock dinner to 8. Got to drive back, and 10 o'clock I'll be back. But the one place I wanted to make sure that I attended was HR professionals. Let me tell you why. NC State cannot be NC State without all of you in this room. I've quickly learned, I don't know how you do it. I don't know how. I think, Tim, you got it correct. The world has changed. The facts have changed. Higher education has changed. We've changed. But yet, there's HR in the middle of it. You have hired, we've got 10,000 staff and faculty members on this campus. 10,000. Last year alone, 2,000 new employees on this campus. 2,000, right? On this campus. New faculty members coming from everywhere. New employees coming from everywhere. And you know, it's kind of like, no matter where they come from, they always comparing what? Where they've been. And so they get to NC State, and you go over, people think, well, this is just compliance. Let's just write it down. This is just, okay, here's your contract. This is what you do. But they remember where they come from. They remember their benefits. But we, the deans, the vice chancellors, the department heads, everybody, the chancellor, I said that. I've been guilty. All depending on who. That's right, go ahead and say it. H what? No, I didn't say it like you mean it. We're all depending on who? HR. It's HR that we turn to. It's HR that we look to say, hey, got this star faculty member coming, make it perfect for them. Don't keep it going, what's taking so long? And the bad thing about that, what I've learned is, do we ever stop and say thank you? Or do most people, hey, I got this another employee coming here, let me move on. I'm sending you this information. And right after they're done, I'm sending you this information. And so when Tim says gratitude, take it to heart. Take it to heart. You know that you are making a difference on this campus. You know, I'm honored to be named Chancellor of NC State University. And when that honor came to me, wow, I was just shocked. I was blessed. I felt down and just felt like, oh wow, this is a huge responsibility. I feel it every day. But you know what I do like? I like counting on HR. I like counting on the people in this room to help me. I'm one person, and I realize that. But because we're a pack, because all of us are in it together, we can make a significant change for the people of our university, but also, more importantly, for communities and for the people of our great nation. If we don't get it right, think about what you did. There's a lot of jobs on the college campus, but think about what you did that people don't say thank you enough. Get sick. Let an employee get sick. Did they properly sign up for their benefits? Oh, I forgot to do that. You what? Oh, the check didn't come in this month. Who's helping them? HR. But why didn't I get this? I thought this had one mistake. So you look at the magnitude of the number of people that depend on you. You get sick one day, and then you see all the emails and the cost. I got a head nod here. That's what I'm talking about. You know what I mean? You get sick one day, and you go back and look at my cell phone here. Oh my gosh. You don't need your chancellor to tell you how much you value. You are. And whether we tell you that every single day of the year or whatever, you don't need me to tell you that without you, this university would not function. I've seen it. I've heard Vice Chancellor say, hey, during cabinet meetings, we really need, talking to Tim, we really need to get this position moving. We really do. Well, did your department, did you do A, oh, I didn't know I was supposed to do that, my fault. But somehow, that's right, you laugh, you chuckle, and so I've been telling this guy to do this how many times? He still doesn't have it right. What is wrong? But anyway, innovation, it's just not happening in the labs. We talk about how much we love NC State and the value of being a Research One intensive university. And as your chancellor, it's been a privilege of mine to travel to Washington, D.C. and to talk about the importance of research and why it's critical. You know, the fact that we've got cell phones and some of us had the old, a few of us maybe had the old timey, a few of us had grandmothers and grandfathers who had those phones. You can clean it up right there where you hit the dial and it goes all the way around. And then you do it again and there was a long cord. Okay, I'm the only one that went through that, I see. But now all of us got cell phones, and on those cell phones you can take pictures. Innovation is not hard. That's innovation, that's research. And that's the value that we fight for every single day. On our campus, I was talking to folks over in textiles and in engineering. Why do you think we're doing what we're doing here as a university? It is our economic development. It is our true north. It is making sure that the students have the best and the brightest, and the faculty members as well. But I stopped by to remind you, none of that happens without the innovation that happens in HR every single day. Let me remind you, you might disagree with me. Let me remind you, look what you did during COVID. Who ever thought that you could work at home and get paid for it? And some people, we found out something else. We can still make it work, right? We can still do that. That's innovation. Flexible work solutions. How do we leverage technology? Streamlining processes. We've got too many people in the middle of things. How do we get some of these folks that we don't really need in the middle of the process to move the ball quicker? And the only thing I wanted you to know, as a first-year chancellor of this university, as a member of this staff, as an alumni, that your chancellor will always value every single person in this room to get things done, to make this university run smoothly. And I know without a doubt, because I've worked with many of the folks in this room today, and I am honored to call you colleagues, I'm honored to call you friends, and I know a lot of the things that you're going through to make this university run in such a smooth way. Our people, you are our greatest strength. It's our HR professionals that are critical to making sure that all of our departments, all of our units have everything they need to thrive. There are many challenges. That's what I learned. Someone asked me, what made you be chancellor now? I said, well, I don't get to decide, you know? And just like Tim said, the challenges, they keep on coming, don't they? But guess what? We're built for this. We're better than that. No matter whatever the challenges come, I believe that the people in this room, we will see it through. And I just wanted all of you to know how much I value you, and if there's any way that we can do things better. You know, if you haven't read the book, Who Moved My Cheese, I encourage you to read it. Anybody know about that book? of how for years and years, what happened? They did things the same way. This is the way we do it. Hey, oh, we can't change that. What? You can't change it? That's the process now. I'm happy to say under Tim's leadership that we can change things. I don't ever want to be part of a group that all I need to do is AI and just say, okay, this is what you're going to do. I'm not worried about AI and people losing their positions. No, this is about people. And the one thing that you will always hear from me, we are the People's University. You don't get anything else. We are the People's University. We're a land-grant university. We represent every city, every county. We've got offices all across North Carolina. And also, we're the People's University. Look at your table. Look around. Our onboarding process, Amy, that when we come in, we make people feel welcome from the beginning. We are the People's University. And we are the people of NC State University that continuously make a difference in this university. So never forget one thing. We've done our exercises check. Number 2, we reminded ourselves of who we are and how valuable we are. And number 3, let's continue the race. Let's continue to do what makes us NC State. Go back to all of you. Until we meet again.
Chancellor Howell, thank you so much for being here with us this morning to build on the theme of gratitude. I think he needs one more big round of applause. And I'm especially thankful for my workout because I haven't had one in a few days. I've been working out here instead. Just truly grateful the Chancellor was able to join us to inspire us and remind us how important our work is and that we are just an amazing HR community. So thank you all for being here.
Great. Well, next we'd like to turn it over to Dr. Patrick Flynn. He'll be joining us today to discuss how technological tools and advances present opportunities for us as HR professionals to really level up our jobs and shift our mindsets. As an assistant professor at NC State's Poole College of Management, Dr. Flynn's areas of expertise include human resource management, teams, transitions, adaptation, and resilience. For his full bio, check out their conference program via that QR code on your table. And please join me in welcoming Dr. Patrick Flynn to the stage.
Thank you. Good morning. All right, so we're talking about leveling up, innovating HR to adapt and thrive, and I'll give you a little bit of background about myself and sort of where we're going with this, but first I thought, sitting around last night, how do I open this and make it fun and be on theme? So I turned to our friend ChatGPT and asked for a couple of jokes. All right, so first one, Taylor Swift has the Eras Tour. In HR, we've had our own eras. The file cabinet era, Toby from the office era, the spreadsheet era, and now the AI era. Honestly, I think Taylor's costume changes were easier. You may have noticed that my name is Flynn, right? That means if this goes badly, at least I've got a fallback. I can star in the next Tron reboot coming out next month. That is, if I can level up in time to escape the HR. So, in conclusion, AI is not going to replace you, right? Like, those were okay. They're not great, so don't be afraid. So I'd like to start with a quote, and I'll share a few quotes throughout, just different thoughts from people to help us frame our mindset around understanding change and where we're going in the future. So Alan Kay is a renowned computer scientist who invented the modern desktop interface. And he said the best way to predict the future is to invent it. So Alexa, thank you for the introduction. Again, I'm Patrick Flynn. I'm an assistant professor in Poole College of Management. Yeah, a couple of you in the room. Kelsey, I saw Doug earlier. A saw it with Mr. Wolf earlier. That can be you. Hey, Doug. So my teaching focuses on people analytics, HR and leadership consulting at the undergraduate and MBA level. My research is focused on adaptation, transitions, events, temporal processes, and work teams. I'm not actually related to Kevin Flynn. Okay, no one here knows what Tron is. Cool, I'll leave that for so some stats, sort of where we are. McKinsey & Company reports that HR is one of the areas of largest cost reductions associated with AI implementation. This shouldn't come as a big surprise because traditionally, HR is viewed strategically as a cost center. Now, all of you know that that conversation has moved in the last 10 to 20 years to make it more of a strategic partner for running an organization. But still, there's a lot of efficiency to be gained from AI or other technological innovations. Gartner reports that HR leaders actually have decreased their projections for AI use in the last 2 years, but importantly, still plan to use it for a variety of functions. So it's clear that there's potential and value, but some of the specifics related to how we use it, what we're going to do with it, are still being ironed out, right? We're still in the middle of the change process. As HR professionals are closely involved in the implementation, but we know that we don't entirely understand what's going on, and we may not totally trust it, right? We can trust that it's going to write a pretty cheesy joke. So the question then is, how do we level up? A couple more quotes for you. Martin Luther King Jr. said, "Our very survival depends on our ability to stay awake, to adjust to new ideas, to remain vigilant, and to face the challenge of change." Henry Ford said, "Whether you think you can or you can't, you're right." And a personal favorite of mine, on winning the National League pennant in 2019, after starting the season 19-31, former Washington Nationals manager Davey Martinez said, "Often bumpy roads lead to beautiful places." So leveling up is a road and a journey. It's not a destination, but it's the notion of progress. When you level up in Tetris, the blocks move faster. I think that happens for infinity. When you level up in Super Mario Brothers, you face the next challenge. So how do we level up? These are some of my favorite video games, showing my age a little bit. If you look across the bottom and you look at the top, the most recent one's Nintendo Wii. That was like 20 years ago. But Santa Claus just brought that to my house 2 years ago, and it's a favorite with my family. So let's consider leveling up today as the next challenge, but not the ultimate challenge. Often in games, as we progress and level up, we acquire new tools, right? How many of you have played Zelda before or know what Zelda is, right? So more than know what Tron is. Got it. In Zelda, you can acquire equipment like a sword or a shield, or a recovery item like a heart. Once you have these tools in your toolbox, you can use them to face your next challenge. Well, what items do we need to level up right now in HR? I think those are technology, AI, and analytics. I'm biased because that's what I teach, right? But just like in a video game, it's important to give ourselves and others grace or extra lives as we navigate change. So we can consider this the race that we're running. It only takes 4 steps. No, okay, that was a joke. Back to our exercises. Sorry. So today we're going to explore how embracing technology isn't about adopting new tools, but about shifting our mindset. I'm not going to explain how these tools work. I don't really know. That would be a computer scientist. But I do know that a growth mindset allows us to see challenges as opportunities and to continuously learn and innovate. So on that topic, something I'm going to use today is a brand new tool. We've experimented with it a little bit. It should work on the next slide, but we'll see. I'm using Mentimeter. It's a new tool for me, and it may be for many of you, but it's a cool audience interaction plugin that you can put in a PowerPoint. So this is really about embracing change and being flexible. So to understand the current state of affairs, I'm going to ask us all to pause and reflect and share where we currently are so that we can figure out where we are on this journey. Here's where the fun starts with Menti. So if you see this little code at the top, you go to menti.com on your device, and I'll read that out because it's super small. It'll ask for a code, and then you can put in some answers to this question. What are the current benefits of technology for your role here at NC State? So if you're on Menti and you need the code, it's 81932795. And as you start to put, and you can make this as personal as you want, right? Don't necessarily put your name up there, but if you have a particular tool that you really love, go ahead and put it up there. And as you see, as you do that, it's going to start to populate a work cloud. And we're going to get a sense of where we are as a community. Alright, so as we continue to do this, there are a couple words that keep staying in the center of that cloud, right? Efficiency, collaboration, communication. None of those have anything to do with technology, right? That's the outcome we get from using this tool. That's how we're able to work with our colleagues better and do our jobs better and be more productive. So pretty interesting. There's some other ones showing up, brainstorming, speed, automation, innovation, AI. Cool. So we've got a lot going on, and it's really helping us as we continue, right? Change is the only constant, so this is just the current change that we're facing as we continue to evolve. So I'm going to move on to the next question. And this one is, what are the current challenges of technology in your role here at NC State? And this should show up on that same browser window on your phone, I hope. All right. AI showed up on both of them. How about that? It's a challenge in my job, too. The students really love it. So I'll say, as you're answering those questions as well, I will hopefully have some time for Q&A at the end, and there's some roving audience microphones. But if at any point you have a question about something I'm discussing, just raise your hand. Alexa can bring the microphone to you, and then Stephanie's in the back, and Kevin's over there, so we can be as interactive as you'd like to be. All right, so a lot of this, some of it's about accuracy, some of it's about speed. I saw slow systems pop up there at the beginning. A lot of this is about understanding, right? So training, education, learning, knowledge, practice. You're all really busy, and it's really hard to make time to learn and develop a new skill, right? That's why it's wonderful that you're here today. You get to have that time for personal and professional development. But sometimes it's really hard to force ourselves to do that if we don't have something in place to help us with that. So definitely many challenges. Actually using it, ChatGPT, tracking data, efficiency is shown up on both word clouds. That's interesting too, right? So the systems aren't perfect. And at the very beginning, it might be slower to try and do something new. All right, one final question for this portion here. Hopefully. No. Oh. It says it's the same question, so you may need to go in and, I don't know. I don't know how to do this. This is on the fly figuring out technology. So if anyone's feeling brave, I'm just going to pose the question to all y'all. and ask, what is something easy you could do right now to embrace technology in your role? Yeah. Be curious. Be open to teaching others. If you figured something out, share that you know, right?
Take a class.
Take a class. Yeah, we've got a lot of those here. Research tools. All right, anyone else? Yeah.
Everyone who knows me, ask questions.
Ask questions, right? It's a hard thing to do, to get comfortable with, but knowing what you don't know and not being afraid to ask is really, really important. I'll add another one, going back to Tim's comments earlier. Talk to someone new today. Find out what they're doing. There's a lot of knowledge here in this room where you all can help each other. So that's a learning for me. That didn't work, right? We'll go back to Mentimeter later and we'll see if we get a new question or just populating the same answers. But thank you for helping me adapt on the fly to that. So I'd like to get in a little bit to understanding how to navigate change. I'm going to talk through evidence from a couple different streams of management research around two key themes that can help you navigate change. The first is trust, and the second is adaptation. So we think about trust. Trust is an iterative process. It forms over repeated interactions where someone takes a risk and others return that risk in kind. It's traditionally been thought about between people, right? I took a risk by seeing if you all would answer my questions out loud. You return that in kind by answering them out loud. However, we can also think of this between a person and a tool, right? If we have some doubts about it, so if I take a risk about a problem, speak up, ask a question about learning a new tool, my manager, my colleague helps me solve that problem, I gain trust in them. And the same thing can happen with learning the tool itself. If I take the risk of setting aside time to explore something, try it out, and it works, or I find a new thing I can do to help my day go better, then all of a sudden, I gain some trust, right? I talked with Doug before this to get a sense of who's in the room, and I shared with him, this is my own trust building process with AI. I used it to help me with my fantasy football draft this year, and it was a disaster, right? But I learned what it was good at and what it wasn't. What it was bad at was telling me which players to pick. And what it was good at was some of the math behind where the value might be at different places in the draft. So it said, you're here in the order, so the third pick, you should go for this position instead of that position. And I'm in second place in my league right now, so I think it worked out. But naming players was a total nightmare. It couldn't even name players who were still playing football, for example. Right? But I gained a little bit of trust, and I knew what risks I could take in the future and which ones maybe I shouldn't. Right? So trust is based on the perception of trustworthiness, and it takes time to develop. It has three different characteristics. The first is the ability. Can it, I'm saying it to describe technology, right? Can it do what I need it to do? That's the first assessment. Maybe we see that from one of our colleagues, and we go, okay, I think I could maybe use it here. Benevolence, belief that the truster has my best interest in mind. That's kind of hard with technology. Does it have my best interest? Not really, right? If we think about it, but more and more I work with it, I see that it can help me in a certain way. And then integrity is sort of a long-term values assessment. And the more that this happens over time, the more that I gain trustworthiness. But if employees don't trust the nature of change, they're going to feel threatened with a replacement, right? However, if you do trust, there's an opportunity for growth, an opportunity to enhance, an opportunity to improve your own job, your own career. So, more fun with Mentimeter. We're going to find out what happens here. A new one. Excellent. So, it's the same code, the same website. And ask quickly, is that, yes. So this is about trust building. What is one way that embracing technology right now has or can enhance your role? So think about ability, right? What can something technologically related do to help me with my job? Work smarter. Efficiency is back. Save time.
Can you read the number, please?
Yes, sorry, it's smaller on this slide. It's 8193-2795. And it's on the bottom of the screen there. So a lot of this is about saving time and making things easier, right? One thing I struggle with is keeping track, and some of you can relate, if you have kids in traditional Wake County schools. Teacher workday yesterday, they always surprise me, right? When are these coming up? They're never predictable. Well, earlier this semester, I handed AI NC State's academic calendar and also the school district's academic calendar and said, can you make a spreadsheet and show me where we each have days off and where they line up? That would have taken me like 4 hours to figure out, and it took 30 seconds. That's a really cool tool, right? So it's an opportunity to save time, get organized, make things more efficient, streamline things. All right. So we can try it out and see if it helps us with that, and maybe have an opportunity to build some trust with a new technological tool, not the Terminator. Tron. Thank you. Shout out. So then, moving from trust, I want to talk a little bit about adaptation. And many terms related to change are really kind of fuzzy, like adaptation and resilience. What exactly does that mean? You look up, if you were to ask ChatGPT to define resilience, it would give you like 8 different answers, and none of them have anything in common. So it can be difficult to capture these ideas. In my research, I think it'd be difficult to capture these ideas without a process approach, without taking a holistic view and looking at how these things unfold over time. So in that view, adaptation isn't an outcome, but it's a process that unfolds over time. And I'm going to explain some of my research that I've done on adaptation to a variety of changes and reflect on how this may help you embrace technology, analytics, and AI, along with any other changes in the future, because this is just the one that we're facing right now. It's not the last one. But if we think about this and look at it over time, this is just a hypothetical example, we can see that 2 different people responded differently to something over time. And if we look at the differences between those response patterns, sorry, getting super academic here, when we look at those differences, we can understand, well, what are some things that explain those differences? What are some things we can do to help ourselves and help our colleagues adapt better? So, first one, adapting to technology changes. Now, I love this thing that I found the other week. Some of you can recall this is sort of like the old rotary phone, right? That's what my desk looked like as an undergrad. And now everything's on the computer. I hate that the picture of the dog got taken away, by the way. But I think this just goes to illustrate, like, we are not, that's a 20 or 30 year process that unfolded there, right? This is just the next thing. It's not the last thing. But I did a study of adapting to technology change in a manufacturing environment, so a little bit different than this, and looked at 87 consumer goods factories around the world that installed smart utility meters. Anybody know what those are? Anybody have a thermostat that's connected to your phone? Right? So it collects all this data, and it's an opportunity to interact with it in real time, and ultimately, the value propositions that should be saving you money, and it should be doing things that help the environment because you're using less energy. But is that actually happening? So I looked at the conditions that made this more or less successful among the 87 factories. Which ones actually reduced their energy? Why did they reduce their energy? And what are some things we can learn from that? So I looked at just over 2,000 monthly reports of energy consumption across these and found a couple of different things. One, the early adopters had more energy reduction, right? So they latched on better to the desired change. Well, we're beyond the early adoption phase with AI. I'm not an early adopter. Also, the longer ramp-up time. So those are units that took longer to install all of their smart meters. It may have been time to experiment and learn and get more comfortable and build trust with that they had a larger reduction in energy associated with that change. Also, super interesting, kind of a no-duh effect, but also I think really profound in some ways, that we looked at managerial attention to this. So you install this smart meter and you just leave it there. Versus we install this smart meter and the person who runs the factory is tracking this and understanding what's happening in real time and making some adjustments to the way that they operate the factory. Well, the people that paid attention to that had a bigger reduction in energy and even had subsequent decreasing energy consumption over time. Right? So the more that we pay attention to this, the more that we actually utilize it, the better the change goes. And those were the statistically strongest effects. I also studied a change we're all familiar with. It's already come up 2 or 3 times today. We're never going to get away from this, are we? Right? So a lot of what we study in terms of change are on these ideas of, we call them exogenous shocks or external events, things like NC State did not plan the pandemic. But it had a huge impact on everybody here. So I looked at the pandemic in an essential business. And that meant that the employees, or the business was allowed to legally stay open. And so they were asking employees to continue to come to work. And what I wanted to understand was, how did collective turnover rates in retail units differ and change at the onset of the pandemic? Well, not a big surprise, they dropped in that first month because the labor market shut down. These people still had jobs while everyone else was getting furloughed. But then it started creeping back up month to month after that happened. However, we had some data from this organization from December of 2019 from their annual employee survey. So those of you who work with that stuff, it's actually super important. What we found was that units that had fostered a sense of collective engagement prior to the pandemic prevented subsequent turnover growth. So there was this condition that existed ahead of time that helped them navigate the change better. And one last one, return to work. Another thing we're never going to get away from, I think. Right? This transition created a bunch of novel problems, maybe some unintended consequences even. The way this transition worked out for many universities, maybe this one, I can't name my sample, but created an opportunity to explore how employees felt during this process and to understand the best way that employers can prepare their employees to navigate this change process. It's still ongoing, right? And we're not entirely sure what to do about it. So I gathered 925 monthly job attitude reports, so satisfaction, commitment, things like that, from 240 employees, and provided them at the beginning of this with a writing exercise. And they were randomly assigned to do one of 2 things. The first prompt said, focus on the potential gains of going back to the office. How's it going to make your job better? How's it going to enhance things for you? We call this promotion focus or gain orientation. The second prompt asked them to focus on, what are the key losses? What do you need to be wary of? What are some of the challenges that you're going to face in returning to the office? We call that a prevention or loss orientation. We think back to how many organizations framed it. They use this promotion orientation framing. We're coming back to the office. It's going to be great. We're going to be so much better at our jobs. And so I wanted to see which one actually helped people be satisfied and more committed during the process. Found the opposite, which isn't a surprise, right? found that people who were more oriented towards self-maintenance and avoiding losses, more realistic, a little bit more cautious, they maintained higher job satisfaction and also higher commitment during that change process. Versus people who approach this as this big opportunity, enhance my job, expand myself. And then we got into the weeds, and it was really hard, right? That was not an easy period of time for most organizations. And so repeatedly, as you think that it's going to go great and you keep running into brick walls, well, then your job satisfaction starts to go down. I also found, I don't think it's on the slide, but that people who had a more negative previous experience prior to that change were even more sensitive to the differences. So there's a lot in there about understanding the change that's coming, working with employees, working with yourself to prepare for that change, and then working through the change. So these three examples provide practical knowledge that's relevant, I think, for navigating change for university HR or really any organization. Some of the key takeaways that I have are to set up jobs and roles to help you prepare and capitalize on change, so doing something ahead of time. Coaching ourselves through the change process, getting the training when you need it, finding the time, asking for it. And ultimately, it's really important to be realistic. Understand everyone's experience going into that. This may seem counter to the idea that I shared earlier of a growth mindset, right? But I think this is more about how we foster a growth mindset to be successful within realistic expectations. So if we have the right people, support, and structure in place, with the opportunity to level up as we work through these changes. So for the last bit, I'd like to focus on how we can chart a course for the future. Some more questions on Mentimeter. So before I press start, I'm adapting on the fly. I'm going to pause and take a minute to read the number. 8193 2795. So the first question is, what will you do now to prepare for tomorrow? Sleep. I'm jealous. Embrace change. Learn. Research. Coffee. Collaborate. Be flexible. Adapt. Plan. Right? You don't need to change everything overnight. That's not how it happens. Maybe we can plan to do something one thing at a time. Be open to change. Focus on people and empathy. Open-minded. A lot of learning things. Being proactive. Right? Don't wait for the Terminator to show up. So another one here. Same code. 8193 2795. It should just automatically change the page on your phone. As the HR team, how do we go through the change ourselves to manage the process for others? I don't know where the T&D folks are in this room, but training keeps coming on. So I'm sorry, I didn't need to give you more work. Learning, understanding, positivity, lead by example, communicate. I think communicate and communication have shown up for every question. What's going well? What are the challenges? How can we do things better? Being open-minded keeps showing up. Optimism, trial and error. I think a big thing is not being afraid, right? So operating in this, I'm speaking to your managers in the room, but creating an environment of psychological safety where people can take those risks in the short run to be able to innovate and learn new tools. All right, so one last quote from a favorite author in my household, Theodore Geisel, Dr. Seuss. Oh, the places you'll go. Today is your day, your mountain is waiting, so get on your way. So that's what I have. We have a few minutes for Q&A as well. Does anybody have questions, comments? Anybody itching to ask for a tool or share one?
In your research, have you noticed the difference in acceptance, say, Google? When Google came on point, the use of Google versus now using ChatGPT or another AI, now it's, I guess, a different way of interacting, because now I know how to better ask the question with ChatGPT than I did with just Google, which was, hopefully, it's going to hit.
Yeah, so the question was if I have seen anything related to different tools and successful adaptation to these. The short answer is no, but I think you're onto something there in understanding how we ask things, right? And so maybe it's become a little bit easier working with some of the more recent large language models like ChatGPT, writing a prompt, than Google searches were in their infancy. Ultimately, that's probably the area that's going to change the most from things like ChatGPT is how we search for things online. So I haven't noticed it, but I think it's a really good observation. There's one behind you.
What are some good tips to be like a good advocate for change and to like create buy-in?
All right, so tips for being an advocate. I think one is, it showed up earlier, leading by example, right? So what are you doing? How can you share what you've learned? We're all coming to this with different levels of experience. So if you're feeling particularly, or let me reframe that. If you are working on something that's making your job a lot easier, finding a way to share that with other people, include someone, teach a friend, just asking about things informally when you go to coffee and lunch. Hey, I tried this today. Have you ever used it? Asking for questions when you need help, I think, is another way. So there are two different sides of that coin, right? We can lead by example, but we can also have the confidence to raise our hand and say, I'd like to be even better at my job. How can this help me? Who can help me with that? Good question.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How do you help your students in particular balance the use of this technology while still working and enhancing their own innate skills, with problem solving, etc.?
Great question. This is something I'm working on. This last semester was really a challenge with that, candidly. They got too good at prompt writing and not good enough at critical thinking, right? To put it in a nutshell. Well, one of the big things I do, I love to make my students squirm. I teach mostly seniors, so whether they want to or not, they need some professional development. They have to present. They have to get up in front of the room and talk. And that's really uncomfortable for many of them. The other things that I do, I encourage them to work with their classmates. So with these projects that they all have the same instructions, they all have the same variable names, they all have sort of the same data set, but it's not exactly the same. So one person has these 130 observations, this person has these other 130 observations from a larger data pool that I've provided to them. And so I say, if you don't know, go and ask for help, right? It's okay to lean on each other, but then the big thing that you need to do is be able to interpret your own calculation, right? So this is very specific to people analytics, but I don't want them getting hung up on the process to get the output. I want them to know where the output's coming from and how to make sense of it, right? So that's my biggest objective, and I tell them this at the beginning, it's a required course. How many of you are afraid of math? Half the room raises their hands. Right? Well, good. I'm going to win you over, but also my objective isn't to help you get really good at it. It's to help you sit in a room and understand what someone else is talking about and be able to think critically enough to go, that doesn't make sense, or where is that coming from? Or, now that we know this, what else can we understand? So, really trying to speak to the process and the interpretation rather than using the tools themselves. But I also need to recalibrate, need to level up myself. Good question. Other questions? Oh, we got one in the middle here.
What do you see as like the next big thing in HR besides AI? As we're, hiring younger generations, more people in those younger generations coming into the workplace, how can we be preparing our organizations today for that?
Yeah, good question. The one answer I'm thinking of is